It's 6 in the morning in Zurich, Switzerland, the fanciest hotel in the city. Marble floors, chandeliers, croissants that cost more than your shoes. And the police are walking in. They're not here for breakfast. They're here for the men who run football. So they hold up bed sheets, like in the movies, and they quietly walk grown men in suits out the side door. These aren't gangsters. They aren't drug lords. They run the most popular sport on the entire planet. So how on earth did the FBI end up raiding soccer? Grab a snack. Because this is the story of how a handful of men took the game the whole world loves and quietly sold it to the highest bidder. For 24 years, this is how FIFA sold the World Cup. Okay, let's start with a simple question. What is FIFA? Because here's the funny part. FIFA doesn't have any players. FIFA never wins anything. FIFA never even kicks a ball. FIFA is the referee, the boss, the organization that owns the biggest event in sports, the World Cup. And the World Cup is a money volcano. Every 4 years, half the planet stops what it's doing to watch it. Billions of people. That means television channels pay billions just to show it. Sponsors pay billions just to stick their logo near it. So all that money pours into one building in Switzerland. And FIFA, very politely, keeps almost all of it. Oh, and because it's based in Switzerland and calls itself a non-profit, for years, it barely paid any tax. A non-profit, sitting on billions. Let that one marinate. Now here's the part nobody thinks about. Every country on Earth dreams of hosting the World Cup. Its national pride, its tourists, its stadiums, it's being the center of the universe for one whole month. So, who decides which country gets it? You think it's fair, right? A panel, some experts, maybe a nice spreadsheet? Nope. For decades, the World Cup host was chosen by a tiny committee, about 24 men, 20-something guys, one vote each, sitting around a table, and whatever they decided happened. Think about what that means. The single most wanted prize in sports was controlled by a handful of people in a room. And whenever a small group of people controls something that valuable, someone always shows up and asks the magic question. So, what's in it for me? To understand how it got this bad, we have to rewind. For a long time, FIFA was kind of boring, a sleepy little sports club, almost broke. Then a man named João Havelange took over in 1974. And Havelange had a vision. He looked at football, and he didn't just see a game. He saw a product. He started selling the World Cup like a Hollywood blockbuster. TV deals, sponsors, marketing, bigger tournaments, more teams, more games, more everything. Under Havelange, FIFA went from broke to swimming in money. And everyone was so busy counting it that nobody asked the obvious question. Where exactly was all of it going? Because here's a name most football fans have never heard. Horst Dassler. His father founded Adidas, the shoe empire. But Horst's real talent wasn't shoes, it was people. Horst figured out something that would poison sports for 50 years. You don't need to win over the fans. You need to win over the officials, the men in the room, the ones holding the votes. So he treated sports officials like kings. Flights, hotels, gifts, favors, and once they owed him everything, he collected. Horst helped create a marketing company called ISL, and ISL got the golden ticket, the rights to sell the World Cup to TV channels and sponsors around the planet, the most valuable contracts in sports, again and again. How did ISL keep winning those deals? Well, years later, ISL collapsed in one of the biggest bankruptcies in Swiss history. And when the courts dug through the wreckage, they found the receipts. Secret payments to sports officials, hundreds of millions of dollars worth. For years, the company selling the World Cup had been quietly paying the men in charge of it. The machine that made FIFA rich was greased with bribes from day one. The culture was set. The lesson was learned. In this world, the deal always came with an envelope, which brings us to our main character, Sepp Blatter. A smooth, smiling Swiss gentleman who worked his way up the FIFA ladder until, in 1998, he became president, the king of world football. And Blatter was very good at one thing. staying in power. See, the FIFA president is also chosen by a vote, country by country. There are over 200 football nations, big ones, tiny ones. And here's the genius part of the system. A vote from a giant football country, like Germany, counted exactly the same as a vote from a tiny island with one stadium and a goat. One nation, one vote, everybody equal, which sounds beautiful. Until you realize it means the tiny countries suddenly had enormous power, and tiny countries can be very, very persuadable. Blatter understood this perfectly. FIFA started sending development money out to little football nations everywhere, millions and millions. Some of it built real fields for real kids. Great. And some of it, let's just say it built very nice houses for very grateful officials. Keep the small nations happy, and you keep the crown. Forever. Okay, let's make this super simple. Inside this whole system, there were basically 3 things you could quietly buy. Number 1, the vote for who hosts the World Cup, the big prize. Number 2, the vote for who becomes president, keep the king on his throne. And number 3, the TV and marketing rights, who gets to sell the games. 3 products, 1 secret price list. And the men sitting on that committee, they weren't just officials anymore. They were holding lottery tickets. Every single one of them controlled something the whole world wanted. So all they had to do was wait for someone to come knocking. Now, every good crime story needs its characters. Meet Jack Warner from the small island of Trinidad. He controlled a huge block of votes across North and Central America and the Caribbean, which made him a kingmaker. If you wanted those votes, you went through Jack. And then there's my favorite character in this entire story, Chuck Blazer, an American football boss with a giant beard, giant appetites, and an even bigger lifestyle. Chuck lived in Trump Tower in New York, not in 1 apartment, in 2. Because the second apartment was for his cats. I'm not joking. The man rented a multi-$1,000 penthouse for his cats. And it gets better. Chuck got so large from the good life that he rode around Manhattan on a mobility scooter, a football boss, scooting between 5-star restaurants, living like a king. He even kept a parrot in his office. Chuck Blazer was living the dream. There was just one small detail Chuck forgot about. He hadn't really been paying his taxes. And in America, that is the one mistake you do not make. Remember that. It's going to matter. Now let's jump to the day the whole world finally went, wait, what? December 2nd, 2010. FIFA is about to announce 2 World Cup hosts at once, 2018 and 2022. The biggest football countries on earth are in the room, holding their breath. England spent millions on their bid. They brought Prince William, they brought David Beckham. The United States brought Bill Clinton. Yes, that one. The committee votes. The envelopes are sealed. Blatter steps up to the microphone. The 2018 World Cup goes to Russia. Okay, big country. Eyebrows raised, but fine. Oh, and England? The football superpower with the prince and the superstar? They got 2 votes out of 22. 2. And then Blatter opens the second envelope. The 2022 World Cup goes to Qatar, a tiny desert country, smaller than Connecticut, almost no football history, and summer temperatures hot enough to cook an egg on the sidewalk. The plan was so hot that eventually the World Cup had to be moved to winter, the first time in history. The football world just sat there blinking. How does the smallest bid in the hottest place, with the least football, beat everybody, officially? FIFA said it was all above board. But investigators around the world were not so sure. And that's when the question started getting very, very loud. The pressure got so bad that FIFA did something dramatic. It hired its own investigator, a serious American lawyer named Michael Garcia. His job? Dig into how those World Cups were really won, clean up the mess, restore trust. So Garcia investigated for 2 years, hundreds of interviews, a report over 400 pages long, and then FIFA decided not to release it. Instead, FIFA published a short little summary, written by someone else. And that summary basically said, don't worry, everything's fine. Garcia took one look at that summary and and said, "That's not what I found at all." Then he quit. In protest. The man FIFA hired to investigate FIFA had to resign because of FIFA. If that doesn't tell you everything, nothing will. But sometimes this whole hidden system slipped out into the open. And one time it happened in a hotel in Trinidad, with actual envelopes. Here's the scene. It's 2011. Blatter is up for re-election. And for once, someone dares to run against the king. A wealthy official from Qatar named Mohammed bin Hammam. Bin Hammam flies to Trinidad to win over the Caribbean voters, Jack Warner's guys. And at that meeting, football officials were invited one by one into a room. And in that room, they were handed brown envelopes. Inside each envelope, stacks of cash, $40,000. A little gift. For their football projects, of course. But here's where it gets funny. Some of the officials were so surprised that they took photos of the money, and one of them talked. The scandal exploded. Bin Hammam's campaign was dead within days. He was banned from football. His challenge was over. And Jack Warner, the kingmaker himself, he resigned from FIFA. And here's the beautiful part. The moment he resigned, FIFA dropped its investigation into him, case closed, presumed innocent forever. So the king's only challenger was gone, and Blatter ran for re-election, unopposed. Democracy, baby. Meanwhile, back in America, remember Chuck Blazer, the Cats guy, the scooter guy? Well, the FBI and the tax agents had been quietly watching him, and they figured out he owed a mountain of unpaid taxes. So one day, as Chuck scooted down a Manhattan street, two agents stepped out in front of him, and they gave him a choice. Option 1, go to prison for a very long time. Option 2, help us take down everybody else. Chuck picked option 2. So the man who lived in a cat penthouse became a secret informant for the FBI. And here's the wild part. They sent him to the 2012 Olympics in London, surrounded by football's most powerful men. And Chuck was wearing a hidden microphone. It was hidden inside a keychain. So while these powerful men chatted about their deals, the giant bearded guy in the corner was recording every single word. For years, the FBI quietly followed the money. Bank transfers, shell companies, offshore accounts, they mapped the whole machine. The trap was set. And that brings us all the way back to that hotel in Zurich, May 27th, 2015, the Boer Olac, 5 stars. The kind of place where the pillows have pillows. FIFA's biggest week of the year. The whole football elite all sleeping under one roof, which made it the perfect place for an arrest. At dawn, Swiss police walked in with a list of names. And they started arresting football officials in their pajamas. 7 powerful men taken that morning. Marched out behind bed sheets so the cameras couldn't see their faces. And across the ocean, American prosecutors unsealed the paperwork. 14 men charged, a 47-count indictment, racketeering, wire fraud, money laundering. Now pay attention to that first word, racketeering, because that's part of a law called RICO. RICO is the law America built to take down the actual mafia, the mob, crime families. And now they were pointing it at the people who run football. The prosecutors said it plainly. Over $150 million in bribes, over 24 years. Football wasn't being run like a sport, it was being run like a crime ring. And the head of the whole US investigation summed it up in one perfect line. They said the men entrusted with the game had used their positions to enrich themselves over and over, World Cup after World Cup. The party was over, so surely, after a raid like that, Sepp Blatter is finished. Right? Wrong. Just 2 days after his own organization gets raided by the FBI, Blatter stands for re-election, and he wins again. The man throws himself a victory party while his colleagues are in handcuffs. He gives a speech about how he is the man to fix FIFA. The captain of the Titanic announcing he'll personally handle the iceberg problem. But this time the pressure was just too big. Sponsors started making angry phone calls. Governments started asking questions. 4 days later, Blatter walks back up to the microphone and resigns. The king was done, and it gets better. Investigators found that Blatter had quietly paid $2 million to another top official, Michel Platini, a legend of the game, for work, allegedly, done years and years earlier. With no contract anyone could find, so both of them got banned from football. The two most powerful men in the sport, gone. The throne was empty. So this is a happy ending, right? The bad guys lose, roll credits. Well, not exactly. Here's the gut punch. Many of the men in this story walked away rich, comfortable, their fortunes mostly intact. Chuck Blazer never went to prison. He passed away a free man in his luxury world. Jack Warner fought going to America for years from his island. He's still fighting. Blatter, banned from football, but he kept his freedom. Swiss courts never convicted him. And the World Cups they were accused of selling? They still happened. Russia hosted in 2018. The party went on. Qatar hosted in 2022. The most expensive World Cup ever, over $200 billion. The games kicked off. The fans cheered. The world watched. And FIFA? FIFA got a new president, new rules, a fresh coat of paint. They made the World Cup even bigger, 48 teams now, more games, more TV money than ever. And the 2034 World Cup? It went to Saudi Arabia. There was only one bid. One. Because that's the thing about this whole story. They never actually sold tickets to the World Cup. They sold the right to host it. And for 24 years, business was booming. So next time you watch the World Cup and you see that golden trophy lifted into the sky, just remember, somewhere, a long time ago, in a fancy room, a few men in suits looked at the game the whole world loves and asked the only question that ever really mattered to them. So, what's in it for me? Sound familiar? If you enjoyed this, you already know what to do. This was The Power Files. See you in the next one.